We are in the 145th session of the Bhagavad Gita study circle, and we are discussing chapter number 13. So, we have covered some very interesting things in chapter 13, and today will be the last session on chapter 13. So, we are going to complete chapter 13 today. So, but before we begin and have the recap of what we have discussed previously, let us begin with the pranam mantras. The mantras will be displayed on the screen, so kindly join your palms and then chant along with me. Let's dedicate this session to His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of ISKCON and my beloved spiritual master. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyat Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Hare Krishna everyone, welcome back to the Bhagavad Gita study circle once again. We were discussing chapter 13 and it is a very beautiful chapter, nature, consciousness, right, and enjoyer. So Prabhupada has explained very beautifully about how there, there are these kshetrajna, the knower of the field, many things which were elaborated by Krishna because Arjuna had asked questions. Questions about, he wanted to know what is the Kshetra, what is the Kshetrajna, what is Jnana, what is Gneyam. So, with all these different things, Krishna started explaining about that how there are two types of Kshetrajnas. There is the Kshetra, that is the body, and the Kshetrajna, there are two types. And the two types are like the soul and the Paramashetrajna, that is the super soul. And how this body is made up of the 24 elements, right? So the body consists of these things, and there is a knower of these fields. And using this field, the soul is fulfilling its desires. Different types of desires we each one of us we have. And each one of these desires are executed, and we are experiencing different desires through this field called the body, right? So most of the time, what's the problem is we are actually thinking that we are the body. We are thinking that we have become this body. And that is why we are unable to completely relish. As souls, we are not able to fully become joyful. So we need to come back to the original position. We need to really come back to our original state, that to that understanding that I am not this body. So that is why Krishna is giving us this idea of how we are not this body from different angles of vision, so that it is clear to us. And at the point of uh, when there is some frustration in our life, when there is something that is not going right in our life, then when we detach ourselves from this body and mind, it is such a big relief. So that's why this Bhagavad Gita knowledge becomes very handy when, especially in times of frustration, when times of distress, when we are undergoing a lot of pain. Bhagavad Gita automatically, when we have this knowledge, automatically it brings in a kind of a sense of, yes, I need to be detached. And how to be detached? Krishna is exactly talking about that in today's verse very nicely. But in the previous verse, he had said that how यदा भूता पृथक् भावम् एकस्तम् अनुपश्यति तत एव च विस्तारं ब्रह्म सम्पद्यते तदा. So he has said that how when a sensible man ceases to see different identities, what are the different identities? The identities are we have not, although we have one identity, but except that one true identity, we consider ourselves to be many temporary identities. Like I am a man, I am an Indian, I am a husband, I am a father, I'm a so and so, or many, many things, right? We have different identities. So, a sensible man, he stops seeing all these different identities. Then, due to different material bodies, and he sees how beings are expanded everywhere, he attains to the Brahman conception. So actually, we should stop seeing ourselves into to having of different identities. No, we don't have multiple identities. In reality, from the spiritual perspective, we have only one identity, and that identity is I am a soul, and as a soul, my functional duty as a soul is to serve and love Krishna. So we have a duty as a soul, and that is to serve Krishna. And when we do that, we become very, very happy. That's why he's saying Brahman conception, right? And then in the again anaditvan nirgunatvat paramat mayam avyayah sharirastopi kaunteya na karoti na lipyate. So again, Krishna had said that how those with the vision of eternity can see that the imperishable soul is transcendental, eternal, and beyond the modes of nature. Despite contact with the material body, O Arjuna, the soul neither does anything nor is entangled. So Krishna in the 32nd verse that how actually the soul is not entangled. He's saying that it is eternal, it is transcendental, and it is not actually within this material modes, sattva, rajas, and tamas. It is beyond the three modes. And then, O Arjuna, the soul neither does anything nor is entangled. So, to explain this, that how the soul is not entangled, Krishna in the 33rd verse is going to give some analogies. How it is not entangled is actually given and spoken by Krishna in a very nice way. Okay? So, Achyutanji, you can unmute yourself and let's chant the. Okay, looks like there is some disturbance in the Hare Krishna Lakshmi Mataji. Thank you so much for joining. Okay, looks like the signal is a little weak on the other side. So you can rejoin. Kaushik, you can also try to rejoin.
Okay.
Okay.
Hello.
Yeah, looks like now. Yeah. Let us chant these words. Okay. यथा सर्वगतं सौक्ष्मात्
यथा सर्वगतं सौक्ष्माद्
आकाशं नोपलिप्यते
आकाशं नोपलिप्यते
सर्वत्रावस्थितो देहे
सर्वत्रावस्थितो देहे
तथात्मानोपलिप्यते.
तथात्मानोपलिप्यते
Once again, यथा सर्वगतां गतं सौक्ष्म्यात्
यथा सर्वगतं सौक्ष्म्याद्
आकाशं नोपलिप्यते
आकाशं नोपलिप्यते
सर्वत्रावस्थितो देहे
सर्वत्रावस्थितो देहे
तथात्मानोपलिप्यते.
तथात्मानोपलिप्यते.
Wonderful. Please read the translation.
Hare Krishna. The sky, due to its sublime nature, does not mix with anything, although it is all pervading. Similarly, the soul, situated in Brahman vision, does not mix with the body, though situated in that body. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. So the sky, due to its subtle nature, okay, the shukshma nature, basically. So It's very interesting. Lipyate. See, in the verse, it is said that Akasham nopalipyate. Akasha means the sky. Lipyate means to mix or to get attached, to stick to something. Lipyate means to stick to something, to mix with something. Nopalipyate, Akasha means it does not stick to anything. The nature of Akasha is that it does not stick to anything. Similarly, the soul, which is spiritual in nature, does not stick to this body which is made up of 24 elements. Now, Akasha, out of all the Panchabhutas, Akasha is considered to be one of the most subtlest, most shukshma among all the Panchabhutas. Very interesting. This whole element is very interesting. So, we should know a little bit about this. So, it does not stick actually. The interesting part of this particular, the nature of Akasha is such that it does not get attached to anything. And it is only one kind. Akasha is not like there are many, many types of Akashas. There is only one type of Akasha. There are no multiple Akashas. For example, now if you see air, there is a different air. Air can be of, actually, there are 49 types of airs. Maruts are there, 49 types of Maruts and 49 types of different airs are there. Now, these airs have different functions. You know, so different types of airs have different functionalities within our body. Now, even grossly speaking, not the subtle, even grossly speaking, you can see that there is sometimes the air which is contaminated because of the foul smell. Sometimes when you're driving, you have this garbage van that is just before you, which is also going up just ahead of you. And you just want to get rid of that place as soon as possible. You want to overtake and go because that foul garbage smell is, stinking, and then that is coming into you, and then you just want to go away from that place, right? So why, to some extent, the air element air carries or get mixes with that foul smell, right? So air has the tendency to mix, and sometimes it can actually get polluted. Similarly, it can actually give us fragrance also. So air is, in one sense, can get contaminated by something external. Water also, you mix something with water, it gets contaminated, right? There is black water, there is gray water, there is colorful water, there is so many different types of, you add some lime and mint to it, it becomes nice juice. So water can get mixed with so many things. Similarly, earth also, earth can be mixed with so many things. You can mix water into it, you can mix so many different colors into it. So earth also gets mixed to it. Fire, there are different types of fires. Again, fire is not of one type. There is blue fire, there is red fire, there is orange fire, you see green fire. You have seen the colors of fires also. So in fires also there are different varieties, right? So our scriptures explain about the different types of. There is a Jataragni, there is a, uh, digestive fire, there is a, Shraddhagni. Many types of airs are there. Okay, I'm just trying to give you some example. So in fires there are varieties, there are airs, there are different varieties. In water there is different types of varieties. So earth there is different varieties. There is black soil, there is red soil, there is yellow soil, right? But Akasha, space, is one type. Space is one type. There is no, that's why it is the most subtlest part of the Panchabhutas. It is the most subtle thing, and you cannot physically perceive it. Air you can perceive, at least, it'll, when air comes and it blows, breeze is there, you can feel the breeze. Fire you can feel the earth, you can feel the water, but you cannot actually, in one sense, feel the space. Grossly, you cannot actually feel the space. It is there, but you cannot feel it, you cannot perceive it, right? So space is something very interesting. You have a house, and in that there is a bedroom, there is a kitchen, there is a living room. All of that is was earlier one space. You build walls, the sum total of space is the same, but you build wall and you differentiate between the space, but the space is all the same. So the space within and without is the same. You take a pot, a mud pot. When a potter makes a pot, what does he do? He is actually takes the pot, and then he creates one pot, and there is space within that pot. Now that's, where did that space come from? It was already there. But you created something to give a shape to the mud, and within that mud there is a space which is called a ghatakaksha. Ghatakasha. Ghatakasha means the space within the pot is called Ghatakasha, the space outside is called Matakasha. So the space within and without is the same actually. The sum total remains the same. Similarly, within our heart there is Krishna with the Paramatma, the soul, resides in the heart. There's Paramatma and Jivatma, both reside in the heart region. There is space there, Hridaya Akasha. And the Paramatma is also Bahirakasha, Bhayyakasha. So there is Hridaya Akasha, there is Bhayyakasha, there is something within and without. It's the same. So Akasha is very, very, very subtle. And the only quality that Akasha, the ether or the sky element has is sound. Sound, Shabda. Shabda is the only quality that is there within ether. In one of the uh, earlier sessions, I had actually shared this. I would like to share it again. Uh, this slide. You see, this is the slide that I had showed earlier. That ether, the sky, has only sound. Air has sound plus touch. If at all, touch is the tanmatra associated with air. If there is no air, you lose the sense of touch. Fire, it has sound, it has touch, and it has form. If we see any forms in this world, it is because the fire element is there in it. If there is no fire there, then there is no form. Any shape that you see, it's because of the fire. Water. Water has sound, it has touch, it has form. You put it in any glass, any type, any shape of glass, any bottle, it'll take that shape, right? Form is there, and it has taste. If you are able to taste anything today, it's because of the water element that is there in the body. We have a certain shape because the fire element is there, right? And then there is earth. Now, earth has sound, it has touch, it has form, it has taste, it also has smell. Water has no smell. Fire has no smell. Air has no smell. Ether has no smell. Smell, fragrance comes from earth. When it rains, you get that fragrance, right? Where is it coming from? It's because the earth element is there. So earth gives us fragrance. The sense of smell is coming from the earth element. The sense of taste is coming from water. The sense of form, shape is coming from fire. The sense of touch is coming from air. But sound is subtle, right? Ether is having only sound in it, shabda. So many people talk about these days about akashic sounds. You know, akashic sounds. It's like, in one sense, it is like the in cloud computing we use the clouds not for storage. So akasha is actually used for storage. All the activities that we do, all the good, bad, ugly things that we do and we say is all recorded. Everything is recorded. Where is it recorded? It's recorded in the space, in the ether element. So the point here is why this ether is so subtle, and in one sense, it is also said that Akasha is the ultimate understanding of Akasha is to realize that God, that Paramatma, is within and outside, and both within and outside, He is the same. Paramatma within us and external of us, outside of us, is the same. Just like Akasha within us and outside us is the same. What we learn from Akasha is this particular point that I am within and outside the same person. I am not I, the Paramatma. So that is what we need to know. The Lord is the same. Now, we can understand through this Akasha that why Krishna is using this Akasha here is na lipyate. Akasha does not get attached to anything. So people, when they get attached to things or when they get attached to people, that attachment is an indication that we have still not evolved to the level that we have realized Akasha. Because Akasha means you are detached. When a person becomes more and more detached, that means he's becoming more and more subtle in nature. His consciousness is becoming more and more subtle. He's giving the gross things. He's giving up the gross things of taste and smell and the fragrance. It means what? You are actually you're giving up your sensual enjoyments, You are getting you away from all the sensual pleasures that we experience through the five senses, and I'm becoming more and more in subtle in my nature. The more we give up these things, the more you evolve towards akasha, towards the sky element. It's the gross element, but within the gross elements also, it is the most subtlest because you cannot perceive it directly. And one of the name of the Lord is Akasha. Upanishads also say this. The one of the name of the Lord is Akasha, because just like Akasha does not stick to anything, it does not mix with anything. The Lord also is not attached to anything. He's completely detached from everything that is material. Upanishad says that Yavannaha ayan bahir akashaha, tavannaha ayan antaryan akashaha. So Akasha within and outside, that Lord, Paramatma, is the same. Who builds this universe? That Akasha, who is Ananda Tattva, it is said in the Taittiriya Upanishad, it is said that that Lord is Ananda Swarupa. And in that Ananda Swarupa, he creates this wonderful world within the space. Akashat Stalingat, Brahma Sutra says, Akashat Stalingat. So all these different things are indicating that how through each of the elements we can actually realize God. And Akasha is the most subtlest thing. That means what? You can experience, you are closer to God. You are getting closer to God. The more you realize Akasha means you are getting closer to God. But a devotee, he even gives up this element, the fifth element, the Akasha, and then he knows that, oh, if Akasha is so powerful that it does not get attached to anything, no lipyate, then what to talk of the soul? The soul is even more subtle because there is Akasha. Above Akasha, the fifth element, there is a sixth element that is the mind, which is even more subtler. Mind can we perceive? No, but it is there. Above the mind, there is intelligence, buddhi. Above the buddhi, there is ahankara, which is even more subtler than shukshma, than intelligence. And then finally, then there is the soul, which is very shukshma, very fine, spiritual in nature. I have told you this before also, how just like when you mix an oil in water, the oil and water do not mix, right? Similarly, a soul does not mix with the panchabhutas. The panchabhutas, it does not mix, but it is attached. Why it is attached now? Because of the false ego. Because I am thinking that I am this body. Many times you must have heard about this example, this particular analogy. The monkeys, when they want to catch that monkey, it is very simple. You keep the banana hanging inside a cage, which has a kind of a locking mechanism. The monkey, it goes and it tries to take that banana, and immediately the locking mechanism, when it pulls the banana, it gets locked. Now all, and it's struggling, it is painful. Now all that the monkey has to do is just leave that banana and the lock will be open. But it is so attached, it does not want to give up that banana, and it gets locked very badly. Same thing is happening with us. Actually, the soul is not attached to this cage, but we are holding on to it. Moment we give up this body, which is made up of these five elements, then automatically the lock will get released. We are liberated, but we are holding on to it. So it's not the matter is holding on to us. Matter cannot hold on to us. It cannot. It does not have that power to hold on to the soul. Please understand. The panchabhutas, the five elements, are not holding on to us. It is we who are holding on to this material body. We are responsible for all our pains and pleasures and all of these things. So none of these five elements are not the mind. Mind, of course, it tricks us, but ultimately we are the decision makers. The good and bad that we think, or the good and bad experiences that we get, any experience in this world that we get is because of our choices. We make a choice and we get an experience. And how do we make choice? Our choices are based on our values. Like, what kind of a value do I have in my life? Our values in life decide our choices, and our choices give us an experience of this world, right? So whatever good and bad experiences that you are having is nothing but the choices that you have made. We make choices, and the choices are deeply rooted based on our value systems. So that's why when we actually talk to children, when we nurture our children, we need to actually focus on the values that we give to them, because when we create a very strong foundation of values, then they know how to make choices. And when they learn how to make the right choices, automatically they'll be happy. So that's very, very core. So why I'm talking about this is because it's all because somewhere we are deeply attached, because we have made wrong choices in our life, because of the wrong value systems that we have. And value systems are also not like it's black and white. There are many types of values that we have. There is a value which is a sensory value, there is a intuitive value, there is a value that is that you can actually a rational value, there is a spiritual value, and there is a devotional value. We have different value systems within our existence. Sometimes in another session we can discuss about what are these different types of value systems that we carry within us, and how based on these different value systems we create experiences within our life, and we end up being either happy or distressed, right? So that is why it is so important for all of us to understand that, like Krishna is saying, no palipyate. We are not this body, we are the soul. And just like Akasha does not get attached to any of these material things, any of these so called other qualities of matter, the soul is completely beyond this. So hope you are getting this point. Hope you got this point, right? So we should know that this ether, the akasha element called sky, it does not have the firmness of earth. It does not have the coolness of water, and it does not have the heat of the fire, and it also does not have the movement like the wind. So akasha does not have any of these things. But in essence, Akasha is the sky, the ether is, in essence, is emptiness. It is all empty. It is the essence of emptiness. And within the emptiness, of course, there are different objects. But space is a fantastic element that it is the subtlest form, and within our body we have space. Between the uh, in the nostrils we have space, within the stomach we have space, within the lungs we have space. That's why the air fills up in the lungs. That's why when we are hungry, when our stomach is empty, the space is created, we feel hungry, and then we eat, and again, you know that is how space is there within our body. There is, in the sinus cavities we have space. That's why we are able to resonate the sound, and we can speak and make things clear by speaking. So the space is a very special element. We can go on and on about talking about this panchabhuta, because it's a subject matter which can uh, finally make us understand that how we are not this body which is made up of the panchabhutas. The more deeper you go, all of these five elements have a certain subtle touch to it, and that subtle touch actually makes a lot of difference for all of us. That subtle touch actually uh, is important to know, because we need to somehow elevate our consciousness from being gross to going to spiritual. So akasha tattva is completely a single piece. It does not have anything mixed with it. It has only one thing within it, and that is a sound, and nothing else actually connects or gets attached to ether. So if ether is not attached to anything material, although it's a material nature, it does not get attached to anything, then why and how will you think that the soul gets attached to something material? It does not. So, in one sense, you are free, but we are like monkeys holding on to that banana. We are just holding so tightly to this banana that we are locked up in this cage. So please release that banana Release that banana, and then you will be so happy. We'll be so happy actually, right? So thank you so much, Hina Mataji, Vinodji, join for joining. So this is how we have discussed a very important thing. So ponder upon this important point that we have discussed, because uh, the ether element is so important. So Krishna is saying that the body does not get attached to this soul, just like the Akasha Tattva does not get attached to anything. Very nice analogy. So Krishna, is very intelligent. He brings in all these different types of elements and examples and analogies so that we can understand it so simply. So thanks to him, actually. He's giving us so wonderful ways to get out of this cage. Okay, so Achutanji, unmute yourself. Let's chant the next verse, the verse number 34. यथा प्रकाशत्य एकः
यथा प्रकाशते तथा एकः
कृत्स्नं लोकमिमं रविः
कृष्णं लोकम् इमं गविः
क्षेत्रं क्षेत्री तथा कृत्स्नं
क्षेत्रं क्षेत्री तथा कृष्णम्
प्रकाश्यति भारत.
प्रकाशयति भारत
Once again, यथा प्रकाशयति एकः
यथा प्रकाशयति एकः
कृत्स्नं लोकमिमं रविः
कृष्णं लोकम् इमं गविः
क्षेत्रं क्षेत्री ततः कृत्स्नं
क्षेत्रं क्षेत्री तथा कृष्णम्
प्रकाशयति भारत.
प्रकाशयति भारत
Wonderful. Please read the translation.
O son of Bharata, as the sun alone illuminates all this universe, so does the living entity, one within the body, illuminate the entire body by consciousness. Correct.
Wonderful. Very nice. Thank you. So, if you carefully see, now Krishna is giving another analogy to explain that how the soul and the body are different. So, in the previous verse, he said he took the Akasha element, he took the ether element, and said that how the soul is not connected to this body. And at the same time, now in this verse, he's also saying that how that just like a sun, when we wake up in the morning, just this morning when we woke up, it's not that we directly saw the sun. We just saw the sun rays, sunlight coming in, entering our rooms. And moment we saw that light, we got to know that actually there is a sun. There is no other proof to it. Although we have not seen the sun directly, just looking at the sun rays within our homes and our rooms, we got to know that there is a sun, right? So, similarly, the living entity which is there within our body, it spreads the consciousness. Just like the sun spreads the sun rays across the universe, though the soul, similarly, the soul, it spreads the consciousness within this entire body. And that's why when there's a mosquito bite within the, mosquito bite at our feet, we get to know, oh, there is a small mosquito biting me or an ant biting me. How do I get to know? Because my consciousness is spread across. But where is that consciousness coming from? It is coming from the soul. So it pervades and throughout the body, the consciousness. We have an experience, all these experiences that we get through the five senses, the eyes, ears, nose, all these senses are getting the power from the consciousness. Because without the consciousness, the eyes cannot see, the ears cannot hear, the tongue cannot taste. Just like you have a TV, but if you actually do not give electricity to it, then it will not work. It's as good as dead. It's just a matter. And similarly, a fridge that you have at home, if you do not give electricity to it, it is nothing. It's not going to do anything, right? All the different gadgets that we have, they function in a certain way for which they are designed for only when there is power into it. If there is no power, they cannot do really any work. So, similarly, all the different senses that we have, the organs that we have, They actually function because there is consciousness, which is like an electricity that is pervading all throughout. Why it is coming? Because the source is the soul. The source of the consciousness is the soul. And what happens at the point of death? The moment the soul goes away, the consciousness is gone. The electricity, the source of electricity, the consciousness is gone. Then, although the eyes are there, the nose is there, everything else we have, they do not function. They are dead. They really can't do anything. So, this is the proof of the soul. What the death, when we see anybody dying, the proof of the soul is this, that they do not function anymore. And what to speak of functioning, the body becomes so useless that I've told this before also, that when we have a little bit of dust in our home, or there is some straws, we keep brooming, and we probably think of accumulating for a day or two, and then you don't mind keeping a little dust here and there in the corner, and then throw it after 2 3 days when the garbage man actually comes. You don't really mind keeping the dust and the straw at your home, right? But when there is a dead body, somebody in the family is passed away, we don't want to keep that body. We say, oh, come on, lift the body and take it away immediately. Within hours, we immediately take the body away. So, when the soul leaves this body, our body becomes more useless than the dust that we have at home. Dust, at least you will keep for 2 3 days, but the body, people don't keep. Immediately, they want to send it away and cremate it or burn it or whatever. So, this is the value of this body, a value of the body which is lesser than the dust at home. And for this body, we are so attached. What a misconception, what a illusion that it is. We have to really think. It's hard hitting, but then we have to think about it. Am I really pampering this body so much which has no value? We have to think about it very seriously. Right? The soul is such a powerful thing. It's that true identity that we have, but we have forgotten. So that's why Krishna is saying a sensible person should know that the soul is not the body. We are not this body. Soul is different. The consciousness that we have is not coming because of some chemical combinations. No chemical combination can bring in consciousness. We cannot bring in. So you can imagine how much damage we are creating within the young minds when we in school teach that we are all coming from some chemical combinations and we were monkeys and so and so. And this kind of education that we give completely takes us away from asking these fundamental questions, that who am I and what is this body all about? See how important education is. So we need to become very conscious now and understand that I have more power than this body. Can I utilize it in a nice way? We need to ask these questions, very, very important questions in life. We should never get stuck up to this body. Right? So, this is how Krishna is saying that the consciousness pervades all throughout the body because there is presence of the soul. And the soul leaves, we are dead. It's gone. It stinks. The body basically stinks. So we don't want, we people will not even call us by our name when we die. You know, they will not say that, okay, please, rasagna ka utao, lift rasagna. They'll say, oh, body ka utao. They'll say like this: take the body, lift the body, burn the body, cremate the body. They say like that. They don't say cremate rasagna, cremate, nothing like that. They don't even use my name when I die. Why? Because they also know somewhere, we all know that Rasagna is not this body. Rasagna has gone somewhere, but the body is not Rasagna. But still, all throughout our life, we think that this body is Rasagna, right? So it's this is why it is called Maya. Good. So think about it. Very important. Hina Mataji, unmute yourself. Let's chant the next verse. So, verse number 35, this is the last verse of 13th chapter. And it is going to give us an overview of what is this whole chapter all about. क्षेत्र क्षेत्रज्ञयोरेवम्
क्षेत्र क्षेत्रज्ञयोरेवम्
अन्तरं ज्ञानचक्षुषा
अन्तरं ज्ञानचक्षुषा
भूतप्रकृतिर्मोक्षं च
भूतप्रकृतिमोक्षं च
ये विदुर्यान्ति ते परम्.
ये विदुर्यान्ति ते परम्।
Again, क्षेत्रक्षेत्रज्ञयोरेवम्
क्षेत्रक्षेत्रज्ञयोरेवम्
अन्तरं ज्ञानचक्षुषा
अन्तरं ज्ञानचक्षुषा
भूतप्रकृतिर्मोक्षं च
भूतप्रकृतिर्मोक्षं च
ये विदुर्यान्ति ते परम्.
ये विदुर्यान्ति ते परम्।
Please read the translation.
Those who see with eyes of knowledge the difference between the body and the knower of the body, and can also understand the process of liberation from bondage in material nature, attain to the supreme goal. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So wonderful it is. So very nice. You see, Krishna is saying here, those who see with eyes of knowledge, Jnana Chakshuhu, right? One who can see with Jnana Chakshu, then automatically we can see many wonderful things that which we cannot see by our these material eyes. What we can see with Jnana Chakshu, the difference between the body and the knower of the body. The knower of the body is the soul. So, if you want to see the difference, then the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita is important. Very, very, very important. That's why we are reading Bhagavad Gita, understanding Bhagavad Gita, studying Bhagavad Gita for this one reason, to see at some point of time in the future, yes, to realize that I am not this body, I am something different. If this is understood, then I think 90% of our job is done for liberation. If we can understand I am not this body, I am the soul, we are almost liberated. Very important to know this. That's why Krishna is stressing on this point so much. Realize yourself, know yourself, become self aware. So, know what is that your true identity. Why he is stressing so much? Because he knows if anyone, each one of us can come to this point of knowing, seeing the difference between the body and the soul, we are 90% liberated. And then he's also saying, and can also understand the process of liberation from the bondage of material nature, can attain the spiritual goal. What is the spiritual goal? Krishna himself. We are not looking for anything else. Our goal is to be with Krishna, to remain with Krishna. Right? That's why Prabhupada is saying, if all this is possible, the knowledge can be acquired when we have a good association to hear of God and then gradually become enlightened. So Prabhupada is saying a faithful person, we all have faith in God. If we have faith in God, then the first we have to have a good association. Sadhu Sangha, Sat Sangha is important. And then Prabhupada is also saying in the purport, he's saying that if one accepts a spiritual master, one can learn to distinguish between matter and spirit. And that becomes the stepping stone of further spiritual realization. A spiritual master, by virtue, by various instructions, teaches his students to get free from the material concept of life. Just see, a spiritual master is important. So important it is to hear from a spiritual master. That's why early morning in the Guru Puja also we sing, we say that चक्षुदान दिलो जे जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशितो प्रेम भक्ति जहाँ होते अविद्या विनाश जाते वेद गाय जहाँ चरितो. We sing this in the Guru Puja. We say Chakshudan Diloje Janme Janme Prabhu Se. saying, Chakshudan, please give me that divine knowledge, that Chakshu. Why? Divya Jnan Hriday Prakashito. If I follow your instructions, you will reveal that Divya Jnana within my heart, O my spiritual master. Then Prema Bhakti Jahan hoite Avidya Vinash Jate. Where there is Prema Bhakti, Avidya will completely destroy. Vedegai Jahara Charito. Wherever you go, then you know you have the backup of all the Vedic knowledge with you. So serving a spiritual master, understanding everything from the spiritual master is so important. Right? We need to have that satsanga. And Prabhupada is saying one has a fortune of hearing in the good association, hearing, listening. So Prabhupada is saying good association to hear of God. Now we are all hearing about God, but how much do we really hear? Now Srimad Bhagavatam, this is important. Actually, you should all listen to this very carefully. Bhagavatam explains that there are different types of listeners. There are superior listeners, there are inferior listeners. Bhagavatam explains this. There are four types of superior listeners. Four types of superior listeners. The topmost, the best type of listener. Now, this listeners, when I say listeners, they are also not simply from the perspective, from the angle of listening, but also what do they do? How is their behavior? How is their actions? When they listen something, how do they behave? That also matters. A listener is not simply identified by the way he's listening to the commentaries or to the lectures, but also how does he behave. Right? So four types of superior listeners are there, and the very first, topmost, the superior listener is Chataka. Chataka listener. Chataka means there is a Chataka bird. There is a bird called Chataka, and the speciality of this Chataka bird is that it will drink water only when it rains. When the Swati Nakshatra, especially in the month of June, July, when the Swati Nakshatra comes, the first rains, the Chataka bird, it waits all throughout the year. It drinks only when there is a first rain. It drinks water only during that first rain during the Swati Nakshatra. So powerful it is. It will die, but it will not drink any other water. It might be thirsty, but it will not drink anything else. So, there are some listeners, they are so, uh, you know, attached to Krishna, they don't drink any other nectar. I mean to say, they don't listen anything other than Krishna Katha. Just like the Chataka bird, it waits until it rains for the first time during the Swati Nakshatra. Anything else, it will close. Similarly, there are people who are like Chataka birds who listen to only and only Krishna Katha. Anything else? What Arnab Goswami is talking about today in the Republic TV, he's not interested. They will not listen to NDTV or this TV or that TV or any other news. They will only listen to Krishna Katha and nothing except Krishna Katha. They are like Chataka birds, right? We are nowhere close to it, by the way. We are not Chataka, but we keep listening to so many things, isn't it? So there are listeners like that who are like Chataka, superior listeners. The next level is after the Chataka bird is like the Hamsa listener, the swan. Swan. The speciality of the swan is when you give milk mixed with water, it has the ability to separate the milk from the water. Very, very special it is. It takes only the milk and leaves the water away. That is the speciality of the swan. So, there are listeners, when they hear so many things, they only take the good and then they leave the rest. All the bad things, they leave it. Good things they will take. They are like the swan listeners. That is difficult sometimes. We become, emotional, we become angry and all these things. Why? Because we are not able to give up. We are not able to separate things, good things from the bad. So we get attached to certain things and we get emotionally disturbed, right? It's all because we are still not come to the level of Swana listeners. Swana, they take only the good and leave up the bad. So one is Chataka bird, the second is the swan, the third is the parrot. What does the parrot do? You tell it something, it will repeat exactly the same thing. Whatever you teach the parrot, it will exactly repeat the same thing. So there are some listeners, they properly hear from the teacher. They hear exactly what the teacher has told and they will repeat exactly what the teacher has told. So they are like the parrot. Parrot listeners means they will hear and they will speak exactly the same. Very good it is. They do not, there is no communication gap between the original speaker and what these speakers speak. The parrot listeners, they are parrot listeners. And there is the fourth is the fish kind of a listener, fish listener. What is the fish listeners? There are certain fishes which reside in the ocean of milk, and they are silently, you know, swimming in the ocean of milk, and they keep taking that milk and nicely relishing the milk inside. They are not disturbed at all. Silent listeners they are, fish listeners. They relish Krishna Katha. There are listeners like that who are very silent. They will just listen and listen and listen. They keep listening to Krishna Katha again and again and again and again. Silently they will, enjoy Krishna Katha. So they are superior listeners. So Chataka bird, there is anybody else? What is the next one?
Swan,
Yes, swan. And the third one is
parrot,
parrot. And the fourth is
fish.
fish. These are four superior listeners. Then there are four types of inferior listeners also. What are these inferior listeners? This also we should know. The four inferior listeners is one is the wolf kind of a listeners. What does the wolf does? The wolf, when there is a cry, when it cries out loud, you know, the deers are so attracted to the nice music of the flute. But then what happens when the wolf cries out loud? It becomes disturbed. It disturbs everybody. It creates fear. So there are some foolish listeners, you know they question or they comment, or basically they are the source of all frustration and pain. So these kind of listeners, what happens is the wolf listeners, when you are listening something very nice and something musical, so wonderful, oh Krishna Katha, there'll be some listeners who will also be sitting in the Krishna Katha, but then they will come and comment. They will listen to the Krishna Katha, but they will come and comment. They will cry out loud and nonsense things. And by listening to them, you will have pain in your heart. There'll be people like that. So they are called wolf listeners. They listen to something nice, but they will come and comment something which is so bad about that particular Krishna Katha that you will get disturbed. So when their whole purpose is to go and disturb others. So that is, they are called the wolf listeners. There's a bird called Burunda bird. Burunda bird is found in the Himalayas. The Burunda bird, what it does is, it hears everything, okay? It hears everything, but it does nothing. So people sometimes they hear whatever they have heard, they will not practice it themselves, but they will simply go and talk about it to everybody else. So Burunda birds mean it will not practice anything. You will listen, but you will not practice, but you will tell it to everyone without practice. They are called Burunda type of listeners. And there is the third inferior listener that's called the bull type of listeners. Bull. Bell bolte na bell. Bull. Now the bull, you give it some nice, uh, grapes, or you give it some oil cakes, it will not distinguish anything. It will simply, without anything, it'll just eat everything. It'll just no differentiation. It'll eat off. So there are some types of listeners without intelligence. They do not discriminate between what is good and bad. They will listen to everything. Okay, NDTV is telling me something, I will listen. This Krishna Katha is telling me something, I will listen. I will go to this particular institution, I will listen. I will, whatever you speak, I will listen from everybody. There are people like that. So confused they will be. They will listen from this guru also, that guru also, get confused, and they will think that, oh, I'm a very good listener. Such listeners are called the bull type of listeners. No discrimination. They'll simply eat everything. Eat means not from the mouth but from the ears. And then there are camel type of listeners. Now camel, You give it mango leaves, or you give some bitter things to eat, or you give some thorns to eat. It will eat. So, and actually, what happens is, camel sometimes it rejects the mango leaves. You know, to achieve some bitter neem leaves, you give something good to eat. The camel will leave that good, nice leaves. It will take something that is bitter. The camel's nature is like that. So, the camel type of listeners are, you give nice Krishna Katha, they will not listen to all that Krishna Katha, the teachings of Krishna, but they are very, very eager to listen to all mundane topics. They are called camel listeners. You give something nice to listen to them, nice music and all, but they want not sattvic music. They will listen to all that hard rock and pop and all those things, and they go mad. So, all mundane things they want. So, these are camel listeners. So, we should know what type of a listener am I? What kind of a listener, you know, what are we? Am I a parrot? Am I a swan? Am I a chataka bird? Am I a fish? Am I a burunda, a wolf? Or am I a camel? Or am I a bull? What type of a listener am I? You should ask this question to yourself today. You should understand and analyze what type of a listener are you. Don't tell me, Prabhuji, on a Sunday morning, I will become a fish. On a Sunday morning, like a fish, I will listen to all the Krishna Katha. I will listen and nicely hear everything. But once that Sunday session is over, then rest of the day, I will become a Burunda, or I will become a camel listener. Camel, I will listen to everything, and I will not listen to Krishna Katha. I will listen to everything that is mundane. Or I will become a bull. I will not discriminate between what is right and wrong, but I will listen to everything. So most of the cases will be like that. Of course, we may not be like that, but in outside world, many people come for a satsang. Sunday morning, they come and listen. They become like a fish, or sometimes some devotees who are a little serious, they will also become like the swan or the parrot, because they listen. They don't want to keep it to themselves. Some preachers, Dave, he listens, but he also goes sometimes and he speaks about it. So he's like a parrot listener. So like that, we should identify today. The homework for all of you is, what kind of a what kind of a listener am I? You should actually ask this question. Who are you? What kind of a listener? So Lakshmi Narayan Mataji is saying that Chataka bird, swan, parrot, and fish, wolf listeners. Okay, Prabhuji, how now got confused where we all stand. Yeah, we all stand at different levels now. Sometimes we are very, we talk about dual personality. We are not even dual personality. We are multiple personalities. Based on situation, we become one type of listeners. Sometimes we are bull listeners, sometimes we are camel listeners, sometimes we are like Chataka. For a month, for Kartik month, we'll become like Chataka birds. Prabhu, only Krishna Katha. I'll not listen anything. So we are constantly changing. So Lakshmi Mata is saying bull, camel, all these first time I'm listening. Yes, this is all there in the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's there in the Bhagavatam. So varieties of listeners are there. So Bhagavatam explains in detail. It actually speaks about the different natures of people. So even in listening, what kind of a consciousness do we have? So when they're talking about this bull and camel, is nothing but the consciousness that these animals have. So it's easy for us to understand. So today the homework is that please understand and note down, what type of a listener do you become? What type of a listener you are? That's the homework for today. Any questions? Anything that you want to ask related to the session that we had today? So with this, we have actually completed the 13th chapter. On next Sunday, we are going to have 14th. And I'm thinking if it's okay for all of you, I'm thinking for a week, every morning we can have 8 to 9 session, early morning, 8 to 9, every day, at least for a week, so that we can catch up with something that we have missed in the previous, so that way we'll be able to cover up the 14th chapter a little quickly. So that is the idea. So if the last week of this month, if we can have a continuous session on a daily basis, so then we can actually cover up things easily and a little quicker. If that is okay, you can please message me in the group. And I also wanted to talk about the Mayapur trip. Second week of December is what I'm thinking. I know Ayodhya, and you also want to go to Dwarka. I'm working on it, but maybe this year will be a little difficult because there are certain things to be organized and to be known. And I am not new uh, aware of these places. I've not been to these places, Ayodhya and Dwarka both. So there is some homework that I need to do. But this year, we have enough time. It's May now, so in December we are planning for December second week. The plan for going to Mayapur. So this is the plan. Nothing confirmed, but you can all think about it. And if any feedback is there, you can start posting in the group, and we will, talk to others also and tell them, and we will finalize the dates. And if it works out for everyone, then we can actually go for a week to Mayapur and also Kolkata. That's the plan. Okay, so two things you should let me know. One is about the daily Bhagavad Gita session this month end, and about the trip and homework for today. That also you can do. Yes,
Okay, Prabhuji.
good. Thank you so much for joining. So we'll meet again next Sunday. Until then, Vinodji, thank you so much for joining. Hina Mataji, Kaushik, Achutanji, Lakshmi Mataji, thank you everyone for joining. Please take care.
Thank
We'll
you,
meet again.
Prabhuji. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhuji.
Hare
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Krishna, Hari Bol,
Hare Krishna. Hare
Hari
Krishna.
Bol.